Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 80 based on novel. So let's start. In the treasure land of infinite space, Luo Feng turned into a stream of light and flew. His flying speed was hundreds of times faster than when he first came to infinite space. And this was just the normal speed of traveling. In this precious land, all places with more native creatures are occupied. If I want to open up my own territory, I need to go to the most remote and desolate areas. Luo Feng chose a direction and continued on his way. In places where there are many native creatures, there may be hundreds of native creatures in one area, which is enough for multiple god kings to join forces to occupy it. In remote and desolate places, there may be only one or two native creatures in a large area. Because there are too few, it is only suitable to occupy it alone. The biggest danger of occupying the city alone is encountering invasion by other powerful enemies. Luo Feng also practiced in seclusion for 100 epochs under the protection of the Emperor Moth before coming out to explore on his own. Luohe? This is the place where the royal family of the ancient Yangfeng kingdom lives. Please leave. This is the territory of the royal family of my ancient Thunder Kingdom. Leave quickly. During the journey, Luo Feng also tried his best to avoid places where some big forces were entrenched. When he touched some huge consciousness, he would be warned and expelled. He never met anyone like Emperor Moth who was kind enough to give him a piece of land. After flying for a long time, we finally arrived at our destination. Baiwu Lake. Luo Feng looked at the vast, endless lake in front of him, with mist floating around. Baiwu Lake is extremely vast. In the earliest times, there were hundreds of native creatures here. Later, the monarch of the Thunder Ancient Country occupied this place alone, causing the native creatures here to decrease continuously. Now there are probably only a handful of creatures in the entire lake. This was a place that had been occupied by many forces. Because there were too few creatures and the area was too vast, the big forces looked down on it. Only lone rangers like Luo Feng cared about it. Start a comprehensive exploration of Baiwu Lake. Life and death. As soon as Luo Feng had this thought, he created 9 clones. The 9 clones flew in all directions, carefully searching for local creatures in the fog. In the infinite space, the 19 origin roads are sealed. To perform truly powerful moves, you must open up new paths yourself. During these hundreds of centuries, Luo Feng has also been trying to open up the avenue of life and death. This practice was a rapid progress. The speed was much faster than comprehending the origin of life and the origin of destruction. There are many reasons why it is so fast. One is the 2 paths of life and destruction. Luo Feng has already reached the peak of chaos. With enough accumulation, he can merge them into the great Tao of life and death. The comprehension of the great Tao of life and death will be smooth. Second, deep in Luo Feng's heart, he believes that birth and death are one and the same. This is the path that Luo Feng's mind has determined. When he became the eternal true God, Luo Feng realized the source of life and death. The first Chaos Realm move that Luo Feng realized was a move that combined life and death, the sword technique to refine the mind. It was just because there was no origin of birth and death in the supreme rules. So Luo Feng put it aside temporarily and focused on comprehending the other 2. After all, the origin of life and the origin of destruction both existed and could be comprehended and observed. In Luo Feng's heart, these 2 origins are both foundations and resources. Ultimately, they are for him to open up the path of birth and death. The path of birth and death is indeed much stronger. Because there was no clear origin, Luo Feng purely followed his heart and began to integrate some of the insights of the 2 paths of life and destruction, and naturally he figured out many tricks one after another. I have been in the origin continent for about 160 centuries. These 160 centuries are the period of my most profound accumulation. Luo Feng is very clear about his own progress. The way of life and death is a fusion and evolution of the 2 paths of life and destruction, and contains many advantages of both. But its shortcomings are obvious. There is no clear avenue, which makes Luo Feng not know what the branches of the avenue are like. Now Luo Feng has realized many kinds of God King level secrets in the avenue of life and death, and his accumulation is even higher than that of life and destruction. But he has never mastered a branch of the complete avenue of life and death. Luo Feng could see the 6 branches of life and the 6 branches of destruction clearly, with a clear direction. Luo Feng felt that as long as he worked hard, he could become a divine king within a century. But Luo Feng was very patient. He followed the instructions of the creator of the world life form. He took training his understanding as the basis and continued to accumulate until he naturally broke through. Don't deliberately pursue breakthroughs. The encounter with infinite space enabled me to comprehend the great truth of birth and death earlier. Obviously, the path of birth and death is indeed more suitable for me than life and destruction. Luo Feng had already guessed this in his heart. After all, he believed that life and death were one, and if either one was missing, the whole would be incomplete. It can be seen from these 100 centuries of practice that those who practice the great way of birth and death are the last to come and the first to arrive. There is no clear secret method, no great enlightenment. However, his strength in the great Tao of life and death is stronger than the other two. This also proves that the path that suits you best is the fastest. Luo Feng thought that God Kings usually focus on one origin path. There are very few who practice both. Because every practitioner has his or her own spiritual cognition. Some cognitions will deny some great things in your heart, and you may even hate some paths. Forcing yourself to participate is extremely inefficient. Like a hermit, he has his own path. He was not tempted to control the original universe and face the origin of life, nor did he make any attempts. It's been investigated clearly. Luo Feng used the clone technique to finally complete his investigation of Baiwu Lake. Currently, 2 God Kings occupied parts of Baiwu Lake. Outside the areas they occupied, there were 3 local creatures, all of which were quite far away. Of these 3 native creatures, 2 were relatively ordinary, similar to those I had fought before, and the other was very powerful, resisting my elemental arts with only minor injuries. These 3 native creatures are 1 strong and 2 weak. Luo Feng was still very satisfied. He hoped to have a more powerful spiritual creature to hone himself. There are only 3 of them. Although the 3 native creatures were relatively far away, Luo Feng still decided to occupy them all. I used the method of splitting my body to occupy the areas of the 3 native creatures separately. Luo Feng's real body and his 2 clones separated from then on, each occupying only 1 native creature. The ancient country of Yangfeng, Fengjong City, is also the ancestral land of the royal Jong family. A large number of their descendants have lived and multiplied here from generation to generation. Ha ha ha, Brother Rosa, please. Yun Ji and Mo Yu Qingyen can become Taoist partners, which is also the fate of our Jong family and Luo He Great Sage. In a huge hall of the Jong family, the core leaders of the Jong family are here to host a grand banquet for Mo Luosa, Mo Yu Qingyang and others. Inside the palace hall, the 2 Chaos Lords of the Jong family all showed up. They sat in the main seat with Morosa. The 3 Chaos Realm Masters chatted and laughed in great harmony. Qingyang, this kid, is my master's disciple, and also my disciple. Morosa laughed, and Yanj and Qingyang became a Taoist couple in the future, and he was also considered half of my disciple. Mo Yu Qingyan and Zhong Yanj were both sitting at the bottom. The 2 younger generations were listening attentively. It seemed that the 2 sides had a pleasant conversation. Mo Yu Qingyan was also very happy to see this scene. This was his first time visiting the Zhong clan, and he was afraid that the Zhong clan would disapprove of him. But in the end, the Zhong family was very welcoming. Although Zhong Yanj is from the main line of the Zhong family, there are countless royal descendants after all. She is just one of the eternal true gods and is not very noticeable among the more than 10,000 eternal true gods in the royal family. I am not taken seriously in the clan. Zhong Yanj transmitted the message, saying that the 2 Chaos Lords in the clan showed up this time because of your identity. The appearance of the Chaos Realm is quite a big deal. As for the highest ranking God King Feng Zhong of the Zhong clan, he is a God King after all. There is no need for him to interfere in the matter of two young eternal true god-level juniors becoming a couple. Even if the great sage Luo he becomes a god king and truly becomes a dominant existence, there is no need for the god king Feng Jong to curry favor with him. He has a background to be able to take root in the ancient kingdom of Yang Feng. Qingyang, we are a family from now on, come, have a drink. Zhong Yun's father was also very enthusiastic. He was just an ordinary eternal true god, and his status in the clan was far inferior to those eternal true gods of the law lineage. But today, he was very glorious. Even the two Chaos Realm ancestors were very friendly. Mo Yu Qingyang was not at all arrogant. He knows himself. The second master exhausted all his efforts to guide him, and he was able to become a void true god through the law of the bloodline. Later, with the help of the master and the second master, he became an eternal true god through the bloodline cultivation system. He really didn't have much potential in cultivation. He was able to reach his current status purely because he was the only disciple of the master and the second master. What was there to be proud of? Zhong Yun also smiled when he saw this scene. She decided on Mo Yu Qingyang as her Taoist partner. She had gone to Xiangjie City in charge of the royal business and met Mo Yu Qingyang for the first time. Mo Yu Qingyang was flattered by all parties and had a very high status in Xiangjie City. Later, as they spent more time together, she found that Mo Yu Qingyang was very simple and she gradually fell in love with him. She cultivated to the eternal true god. She had never had a Taoist partner before, which shows her mindset. Without a suitable one, she would rather cultivate alone forever. The same is true for Mo Yu and Qingyang. They both chose their Taoist partners after reaching the eternal true god. The treasure land has infinite space and the apprentice is going to get married, but Luo Feng, as the master, is concentrating on cultivation. He is currently sitting cross-legged on an island in a lake, performing the Great Destruction Refining Heart method to eliminate the pollution of his own mind. The stronger the psychic creature, the stronger the pollution. Luo Feng could feel the impact on himself. Even when he tried to comprehend the Great Tao, the spiritual pollution would interfere again and again. Boom! Suddenly, a consciousness touched Luo Feng's spreading consciousness. This is my territory, leave quickly. Luo Feng conveyed his thoughts. Your territory? I have killed this native creature dozens of times. It has always been my place. That spiritual will also reach the second level of the Divine King. A huge figure in a yellow robe stood in the distance, looking at the island with a sneer. It turned out to be Luo He. You are a Chaos Realm Transcendent and you dare to compete with me, the ancestor, for territory. If you don't want to die, get out. Luo Feng looked at him with cold eyes, then let me see what skills you, a first-level God King, have in this infinite space. Luo Feng looked at the huge figure in the yellow robe in front of him and felt a little surprised. I didn't expect that my first contact with the God King of the Food Kingdom when I came to the origin continent would be in the treasure land of infinite space left by Yuan. Luo Feng knew the information of every God King in the origin continent, so he naturally recognized the identity of the yellow-robed figure at a glance. He was the Wuxiang Patriarch, one of the 5 God Kings of the Food Kingdom. Ancestor Wuxiang is the second most powerful among the 5 God Kings of the Food Kingdom. The 3 rulers of the Shi Kingdom in the early days were the Qianquan ruler, the Wuxiang ancestor, and the Daomo ancestor. It was these 3 who destroyed the Jin Kingdom in the beginning, and they were also the enemies that Zushang hated to the core. The Lord of Qianquan is a God King of the 2nd level. The Wuxiang Patriarch is at the extreme level of the God King of the 1st level, and is even stronger than the Snow Realm Patriarch in terms of strength. The Sword Demon Patriarch is also a very strong God King of the 1st level. With the help of my brother, I became a member of the outer circle of the 2 realms officials, and accumulated a lot of merits to exchange for a chance to enter the treasure land. This Luoha, a Chaos Realm Transcendence, can come in. The huge figure in the yellow robe looked at Luo Feng, jealous and quite unfair. He knew very well how much he had paid for the opportunity to enter this treasure land. How much skill do I have? Wuxiang Patriarch sneered at Luo Feng. Since you are looking for death, I will satisfy you. Once your body disappears in the infinite space, do you want to come in again? You will need a new quota and use the token again. Every spot to enter this treasure land is very precious. Humph. Luo Feng looked at him with murderous intent. With his current strength, he could not do anything to the three rulers of the Food Kingdom. But he did not mind destroying the other party's body in the infinite space and cutting off the other party's chance. The two sides faced each other from a distance, neither of them backed down. He is quite confident. Although Wuxiang Patriarch is domineering, he is also very cautious. He has not become a god king in the outside world, so how high can he reach in opening up a new path in infinite space? The infinite space has sealed off 19 avenues of origin. Apart from the will of the mind, normal confrontations rely on opening up new paths. Even for the Emperor, the newly opened path may not necessarily be that powerful. This is also the reason why Ancestor Wuxiang is quite confident. He opened up a new path. Although he did not realize the complete branches of the avenue, he also realized two Divine King-level secret techniques. This is the case with new roads. There is no clear reference to the avenue. Generally, you need to comprehend a variety of God King-level methods before you can comprehend the branches of the avenue. Ancestor Wuxiang was cautious, and as soon as he thought about it, an invisible force ignited in Luo Feng's body. There was a colorless and transparent flame that was burning Luo Feng's body and his mind. This is the new avenue of sin fire that I, the Ancestor, have opened up based on the infinite origin avenue. The Wuxiang Ancestor is very confident. Although he has not mastered the complete avenue branch, he is very confident in the power of the sin fire. This fire? Luo Feng was also a little surprised. The fire of sin came too strangely. Without seeing the opponent make a move, colorless flames appeared out of nowhere and burned his body and mind. His spiritual consciousness was strong enough, even without the elements technique, it was not extinguished by the current fire of sin. Under the protection of the elements technique, Luo Feng felt comfortable with the burning of the fire of sin. But the physical body is a bit troublesome. Luo Feng's body was very special, full of endless vitality and part of its own power. But it is also constantly being eroded, a bit like the Great Destruction mind refining method, constantly tempering one's own body, and the parts that cannot bear will be annihilated, and then new parts will be born. This is also the God King level body refining method, body of life and death, that Luo Feng realized while opening up the great Tao of life and death. Now being burned by the fire of sin is also a kind of tempering for Luo Feng's body. The weak parts are destroyed actively, and the vitality is transformed into new power to be reborn again. In just a moment, the constantly regenerating body's ability to resist the fire of sin increased dramatically. Pure life is not tough enough. Only by constantly destroying the weak and leaving the strong, can the body evolve and become stronger. Luo Feng was very satisfied with the power of the new body of life and death. Luo Feng looked at the Wuxiang Patriarch. It's my turn to be the Wuxiang God King. Ancestor Wuxiang was shocked to see that Luo Feng could withstand the sins. At this moment, Luo Feng was standing in place, and he waved his hand like a knife. The blade light was as condensed as a silk thread, containing the tenacity of life as well as the destructive power of the rule of cutting in two with one stroke. This blade was the God King level sword technique of cutting in two with one stroke. Swoosh! The knife flashed and passed by, cutting through the body of Wuxiang Patriarch like a silk thread, and Wuxiang Patriarch was unable to avoid it. Ha! The Wuxiang Patriarch's entire body turned into a colorless flame and was hit by the knife. He felt the remaining knife force after the knife passed through his body, which was full of tenacity and continued to wear away his body. He tried his best to suppress it, and after a breath or two, the knife force in the flame body was completely annihilated. You are a chaos realm, but your newly opened path can reach the Divine King level? The Wuxiang Patriarch who turned into a flaming body really couldn't believe it. Why didn't you become a Divine King with your original path? No hurry. Luo Feng looked at him. The body of Wuxiang Wang is quite interesting, but how many blows can you take from me? Eternal life. Luo Feng's body suddenly split apart, instantly transforming into 36 clones. Clone? Ancestor Wuxiang knew that something was wrong. He could also use his clone in the newly opened road in infinite space. He must have a clone hidden somewhere else. It was almost impossible to cut off his chance in infinite space. Luo Feng's 36 clones swung their arms and chopped out with their hands at the same time. With Luo Feng's mental strength, he could use more than 50 clones to perform this God King level sword technique at the same time. However, the cooperation of 36 clones could form a sword formation. Cut it off with one stroke, the cycle of life and death. 36 Luo Feng swung their swords at the same time, and 36 strands of sword light as condensed as silk instantly enveloped the body of Wuxiang ancestor, like a net of heaven and earth, strangling him continuously. No, when ancestor Wuxiang was strangled by the sword lights that were like a net of swords, he realized that his flaming body was rapidly being consumed. The destructive power of the swords was too terrifying. It is powerful in destruction yet resilient. These knife forces will return and continue to strangle, wave after wave, like an endless cycle. Stop! No matter where Wuxiang Patriarch fled, the 36 sword lights enveloped him like a net, strangling him continuously. Stop, everything is easy to talk about. I am willing to pay the price for compensation, please let me go. Wuxiang Patriarch looked at Luo Feng anxiously, and didn't care about his face. If his body died, he would be expelled from the infinite space. It's too difficult to get a place to come in once. Luo Feng looked at him. Everything is okay? For ordinary opponents, Luo Feng was merciful and compensated them and let them go. Unfortunately, you are one of the 3 great rulers of the Food Kingdom. You are the Master's great enemy. A treasure worth 1,000,000 merits. I can compensate you for the treasure worth 5,000,000 merits. Everything is easy. Why do you bully me like this? Luo He, very good, I remember that 36 sword lights surrounded him, and after only strangling him for more than 10 breaths, the flaming body of the Wuxiang Patriarch was finally completely annihilated. At the moment of annihilation, the Wuxiang Patriarch stared at Luo Feng with a crazy look in his eyes. Luo Feng looked at him, but was very calm. This is just the appetizer? You and I, we can be considered to have known each other, Luo Feng whispered softly. This was the first time he dealt with the 3 rulers of the Food Kingdom. Food Country, no form city. The magnificent palace had countless guards and servants and a strict system. Luo He. The angry and deep voice came from the depths of the palace, and even spread throughout the entire palace. The disciples, guards, and servants in the palace all changed color when they heard it. Such a terrifying aura is obviously from the Wuxiang ancestor. The ancestor seems to be furious? Related to Luo River? Everyone in the palace held their breath. Everyone could feel that the ancestor was extremely angry. In a hall deep in the palace, Ancestor Wuxiang's eyes turned red with anger. You actually ruined my chance in the treasure land. Wuxiang Patriarch was angry and frustrated. He still had more than 20 reward points to redeem, and if he stayed in the infinite space long enough, he could accumulate more reward points to redeem more precious resources. He paid a great price to get the chance to go in. Now, it's all destroyed. I am willing to make amends, but he won't give me a chance. Wuxiang Patriarch was extremely angry. In reality, the origin of the origin continent has not been banned. Luo He's strength will only be stronger. He is indeed not afraid of me. But, I am not afraid of you, Ancestor. Even if you become a hegemon in the future, what will happen? In reality, Ancestor Wuxiang is also a stronger warrior god at the limit of the 1st level, and he is not afraid of the 2nd level of the God King. I just don't believe that you don't have any weaknesses. The loved ones you care about don't have any weaknesses. Wuxiang, the old ancestor's eyes are cold. If you destroy my chance, you have to pay the price. I need to know all the information about Luo He. All the information about his relatives, friends, and disciples. Ancestor Wuxiang never thought of enduring, and immediately purchased information at the Liangjie Palace. In Chudu, in a quiet room in Luo Feng's cave, inside the Star Tower. Luo Feng is in meditation. Although he killed Wuxiang Patriarch and cut off his chance in the infinite space, his strength should not be underestimated. Luo Feng thought that the other party had indeed realized the secret method of the God King level on the new path, which meant that he had met himself. He had comprehended all aspects of his divine body, clone technique, and sword formation, so he was one-sided. After all, I haven't figured out the complete branches of the great Tao of life and death. If I am too arrogant, I might end up hitting a wall like the old man Wuxiang. Luo Feng thought that there were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the infinite space, and many ancient beings had entered it. Maybe some of them had opened up new branches of the road. I have been practicing for 100 centuries and my accumulation is deep enough. I can take the Hunyuan crystal spirit fruit again. This time I can also take the bottle of Qingxin spirit liquid together. Luo Feng made a decision. Luo Feng had asked his master Dichu about the soul-purifying liquid and learned that it was much more valuable than a Hunyuan crystal spirit fruit. It was rare for the elite of the royal family to get one. Dichu gave it all to Luo Feng. A bottle of soul-clearing liquid is just one portion. Huh. Luo Feng took out a Hunyuan crystal spirit fruit and began to eat it, while the golden bottle was placed beside him. Accumulate under normal circumstances, and after the accumulation is deep, then take the treasure. With the help of treasures, you can take yourself one step further. The effect of the Hunyuan crystal spirit fruit was still so magical. Luo Feng felt that his soul was nourished and his thinking speed soared. Then Luo Feng picked up the golden bottle beside him, uncorked it, and drank it all. This video will end here.